case you're totally confused about the news from Israel, which I think I am, we brought in Hanok Young. Who better to straighten it all out? Good morning, man. How are you? I love the
Uh,
shirt.
as we well, yeah, these are all over, which it's interesting because I just got this on Thursday. Um, one of the things that Modin, among other communities throughout Israel, do is they try to have these kind of farmers markets, so the farmers from the south can sell and distribute their produce.
Oh, cool.
Which is interesting because it creates a dilemma. It's kind of a weird way for us to start off the program, but there's a big push throughout the country to try to buy as many products from the South as possible. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Someone is connected to a bakery. I don't know where, but anyway, the question is, what about those who are selling products in Israel from elsewhere in our country? Because I'll give you a live example. During the Oslo War, which everyone else besides you and I in English seem to only know as the Second Intifada,
Right.
a number of Israeli vendors began having Israel fairs in America. There were very few tourists coming to America.
Yeah.
So they would come and people would, they would, let's say it would be done in a Jewish community center somewhere. Great. The problem is those stores in New York City, those Judaica stores that were importing and selling the same products said, what are we, chopped liver? So it's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah.
Um, a lot has been going on here in Modi. I'm going to fill in, kind of the little details, and then we'll get to the big issue of and it's interesting because in the English language press, it's all about ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. The only thing we're concerned about, there were two goals with this war. One is to return all of our hostages, as many as are left, and I'll get to that shortly,
Yeah.
and to destroy the leadership of Hamas, that they can never threaten us again. Two goals. This whole thing is two goals. Okay, but let's talk about Modi'in. Once again in Modi'in, I wound up on a sort of route of respect of a soldier being taken to his final rest. Between Thursday and Sunday, we lost 3 more soldiers from Modi'in.
Wow.
Modi'in has the dubious distinction of having the largest number of fallen soldiers in this
Yeah.
war,
Yeah.
by far.
Wow.
And when you consider that we're not even the 20th largest city in our country,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty shocking. That goes back to something that I had spoken about. Wow, I don't even remember when, many weeks ago, about the high rate of enlistment
Yeah.
in Modi'in, that many of the founders of the surrounding little villages were demobilized officers. And again, most people are under the assumption that we have compulsory military service in Israel. We really don't. It's compulsory for most. The Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox, do not serve. And more people over the last number of years have kind of, I'm a pacifist, or, I don't want to get my nails, chipped or some, and I'm talking about guys, you know, you know, so it's all kinds of things going on. That's not in Modi'in. You can't walk past many storefronts without them being plastered with the pictures of the hostages. Okay, let's talk about the number of hostages. Until the other day, we were talking about 240. If you look at the numbers today, then it was 239, then it was 236. And although it's not updated yet, it's actually 235 because Islamic Jihad, the second largest terrorist group in Gaza, announced that one of the women that they were holding died. It's truly unbelievable. Just to give people an idea, because everyone wants to know, so what is regular life in Israel? I mean, the mall is now fully opened. All of the entrances and exits are opened. And it's kind of weird on the one hand to see people shopping for clothes and buying ice cream. But then you realize their husbands and daughters and sons are serving in the front lines, either in the South or in the North. And they're trying to have as normal a life for their children and grandchildren as humanly possible. It is a level of stress and anxiety that I can't even begin to describe. With my upcoming trip to America, I've been thinking of, I mean, this wasn't even part of the presentation. This is all extra stuff to cover about Israel right now. I don't even have the words to describe what it feels like. I'll give you a really stupid example. At the beginning of the war, they realized they needed to change the sirens on our police and emergency vehicles, the ambulances, because they all sounded like the beginning of the sirens for an incoming missile attack.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So they went back to the way it used to be, which is the emergency siren used in Europe. It's the one that goes, okay. What's the problem with that? The problem with that is the very same police siren that the Nazis used.
Yeah.
So they've gone and tinkered with it. So it's that melody, if you will, but much slower. So it's like,
It's the
okay.
same.
This
I
is
mean,
this is this is this is the level where things, people are wearing these dog tags, the Israeli dog tags, the yellow bracelets. Okay. A word about the North. We have no idea what Hezbollah is going to do.
yeah. Yeah.
We have no idea. The sort of war of attrition continues, and it's a big question mark. Hezbollah was the bigger threat, and in September, most of our elite units were rotating on the northern border, preparing for the Hezbollah invasion, and we were totally surprised that it came from Hamas, but using the same tactics. Okay, let's get to the issue of the day, the ceasefire and hostage exchange. Oh, before we go there, remember last week or two, I mentioned about this ridiculous email going around saying some Israeli soldier was sending out messages telling everyone, drop what you're doing. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's still continuing. So I really have to say something about it. One of my friends happened to see this, and they turned to me and they asked me, is this real or not? And I really appreciate it. I do not understand why all the people who claim to be so close to me for so many years print something, share something from Israel, or like we discussed last week, or give to a charity ostensibly in Israel, and never ask, is this real or Memorex? Like, what is this? And I was stunned. A Facebook group that I co-founded, I'm no longer active in it, that I co-founded, United to Restore 10 years ago, Prince, the same thing. And it's all, it's all the versions. This came from a rabbi to a former congregant, and it's in Israel. And Israel is, here's the kicker. Israel is asking you to stop what you're doing and pray, because we've recovered the hostages and we're fighting our way out. The government of Israel, no government in the world, is ever going to send out a plea worldwide asking people stop what you're doing and pray.
Yeah.
As I said to this friend, Israel doesn't operate like a messianic congregation. It right now, worship and praise, let's go. It doesn't happen that way. And our soldiers don't take the time at the front lines writing that. Also, this has been circulating for 2.5 to 3 weeks. Where are the released hostages? And I'm okay. Cleansing breath.
Breathe.
The greatest thing about our country is our greatest vulnerability. What we view as the sanctity of life.
Yeah, true.
There is nothing more precious to us. And the terrorists knew that. They glorified death. They knew that we glorify life. In fact, it's when we describe the observance of mitzvot, the concept of pikuach nefesh, of saving a life, overrules everything. And it's not just for Jewish people. When I'm walking down the street in the United States and there's a house on fire and it's Shabbat, and I've got all these things on Shabbat that I'm supposed to do and not do, non-Jewish people, their house is burning. I am to go in, risk my life to save them. The sanctity of life.
Yeah.
We have children and women. We cannot abandon them. We have a really bad record with hostages. Gilad Shalit, most people don't realize this, sat for 5 years in isolation.
Yeah.
5 years he sat. Personally, I think we did a really bad deal. We freed 1,000 terrorists, including who is the head of Hamas, who brought this whole war on our heads. Israel had to do something to at least free some of them. Now, if it was only Bibi Netanyahu saying, I assure you, the war will commence when these few days of ceasefire and hostage exchange is over, if it was just him telling me that, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But Benny Gans, who was former Minister of Defense, former Chief of Staff, who's the head of the opposition, is in the war cabinet now. He is the guy likely to be the next prime minister when Netanyahu is thrown out in disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't agree to something. In other words, Netanyahu's career is done. Gans is on the horizon. He's not going to, the war will commence. Now, the thing that's really interesting, I mentioned to you right before we started, yesterday it came up in memories from one of our conflicts back in 2012. And it was the Inigo Montoya character from Princess Bride, which, if you're not familiar with Princess Bride, get that film and see it. It's one of the classics, in my humble opinion, where he's saying, you keep using this word and I don't know if you know what it means. And at the bottom it said ceasefire. This is not a standard ceasefire. We have a history here with Hamas in particular. We cease and they continue to fire. This is a whole different ball game. This is a whole different thing. So I posted it yesterday and I noticed something this morning. All these comments, go IDF, Israel, don't stop, no ceasefire no matter what, forget it, and even some things relating to parts of Netanyahu's anatomy were mentioned, and I sat back and I didn't respond, this is not a kinder, gentler Hanoch, but this is one saying, I don't have time to waste on this.
Yeah.
And I give the example of you to people, Mike. You are as crazy in love with Israel as I am. But we're both very careful about saying Israel needs to reclaim the entire Temple Mount. I don't care what kind of war it'll be. To the last drop of Jewish blood. We don't say that. These people were all saying that. And when you've got a baby like one whose name is Kfir, who's 9 months old, and it strikes me because my Yoni is 9 months old. How can you allow this to occur? So we need to get back who we can now. There's also a stipulation in this deal that the Red Cross will be able to visit all of the prisoners, the hostages. Now, I didn't expect any of our soldiers to be released. Many of them were slaughtered and mutilated.
Yeah.
We need to get back the children. And then we need to press the offensive as we head into the southern part of Gaza, extremely heavily populated, incredibly dangerous for our young men and women. Now, someone wrote me the other day saying that they were astounded, pleasantly surprised, at how small our death toll was. And I pointed out that we now, as of this morning, have close to 9,000 wounded. Now, that's not like I've got I got a ricochet scratch on my arm. These are guys who've lost limbs. These are guys who are in coma. These are guys who are irreparably neurologically injured. It's very serious. And the pictures of each and every one of them, we see them here. Gorgeous nishamot souls. Now, one of the highest mitzvot, one of the highest halachic obligations we have is something called pidyon shvuim, releasing of captives. Throughout our history, particularly in the Middle Ages, when the Christian-dominated areas that we lived in, or the Muslim-dominated areas that we lived in, needed to raise revenue, they took a couple of Jewish notables prisoner and demanded a ransom for them. And historically, we have always risen to that occasion. This is what this is. This is not now. Am I happy that there's a quote unquote ceasefire? One of the people that I speak to here who gives me a reality check about what combat in Israel is like had been a company commander in tanks in Gaza until a few years ago. He's aged out. Now, ironically, his son is on the front lines in Gaza. I mean, that's the way it goes here in Israel. And he said to me, in a campaign of war, it's incredibly difficult to stop-start. This isn't like we're playing pickup basketball, or, I'm sorry, it's not like we're playing golf. And we say, you know what? Let's pause and have a burger and then we'll continue, the next round. But clearly, we in Israel are doing something that we didn't want to do because of the needs of the sanctity of life to protect our women and children. Now, Israel is giving up security prisoners, teenagers and women. None of them have quote unquote blood on their hands. They didn't kill a Jew. Many of them have injured Jews. Many of them have tried to injure Jews. And all of this is going on at a time, Mike, you've pointed out, this is not simply a war. And if you look at what is happening worldwide to Jews, now, interestingly enough, I do have to point this out. There is one country that has been steadfast in speaking out against anti-Semitism. And you know what? I'm going to drop that term. We're going to just call it Jew hatred. Because anti-Semitism sounds kind of like, wishy-washy. Yeah. It's like, do you have carbonated water or flat water? Like who? And that's Germany. Germany on Kristallnacht put up in big lights, never again is now. Germany, just as of today, criminalized that expression from the river to the sea.
Wow.
Now, the head of the Jewish agency in Israel, that's the organization that's involved with Aliyah, although it's Nefesh B'Nefesh that does it in North America and England. He said, I don't know, by the way, he lost a relative in the communities near Gaza. He said that we're expecting 1 million Jews to immigrate to Israel in the next number of years. Now, I don't know what his tea leaves have been telling him, and I have no idea what kind of tobacco he's been putting in his pipe and smoking. As we say, halavai, I wish. I wish. Because you see how stretched our country is and how difficult it is, not just for the soldiers who are fighting or sitting on the northern border prepared to fight, but their wives and children. On Instagram, there's the whole, you've seen this in America, on YouTube, these guys and women coming back from the U.S. Armed Forces, from deployment, and they surprise their sons and their daughters and their mothers, and it's wonderful. We have it on Instagram of all these things, and it tears at your heart. It's wonderful to see, but it tears at your heart.
Sure.
I said to someone yesterday, at the gym, it's my big socialization, rehabbing my knee and ankle, and all the king's horses and all the king's men trying to put Hanoch back together again. I said, it should be people our age. 21 years old, you haven't lived.
I know. I know.
So the overwhelming consensus in Israel was to make this deal for the hostages, with the proviso that the war resumes in a few days. So people on Facebook, our mutual friends, Mike, can rant all they want. That is not the will of the people of Israel.
No,
And
I think it's once again, Hanok, let me just insert this. It's a coldness. It's like those that say, well, just go up to the Temple Mount and take it. How many lives are going to be lost? Yeah, I got some of that same attitude regarding what is going on. I talked with Moshe Goldsmith yesterday, in Itamar. They're scrambling, trying to put things together. And one of the people that was at I'll kind of, I won't give specifics, but one of the people that was at the farm up in Itamar was very close to the concert and was killed. Their body is now buried at the farm on Itamar. Um, I talked with a soldier. I was able to talk to a soldier just a couple of weeks ago, in his 20s. And I mean, I knew what he was going back to. You know, this is, we've talked through the years of, it's not just that, uh, our Connect Israel tour, the speech I give on the
Yeah.
bus heading to Ariel, that this tour is not about you going and then coming home and going about your business as usual. And, you got your little olive wood Shabbat candles and your mezuzah from Yuval. And by the way, he has a son on the front lines. Um, it's about getting to know the people, and that you never can look at the news the same. This morning I have people, uh, young men that are on the front lines that I pray for by name.
Yeah.
Our Connect Israel tour is one that it doesn't. I've got a text here of somebody says, I'm talking about changing your life. This is why I say it doesn't change your life; it defines your life, or at least it should. If you can go to Israel and not have your life defined, then something was wrong, either with you or the tour or something. But you know, it's one thing to say, just go in there and and at all costs get the hostages. Is that, what if it's your baby?
Yeah.
What if it's your wife?
And
What
we're
if it's
doing
your
everything,
grandmother? You know?
interrogating the terrorists, all the intelligence,
Uh,
phone calls. We're doing everything we can.
yeah.
And Israel has capabilities that we didn't even know. Like, for everything that we did wrong at the start of this, we have made incredible strides. They've been preparing this for years,
Oh yeah.
and Israel is fighting a battle underground that no one else in the world has ever had to deal with. And it's shocking to me. And I saw this in terms of when I let a few close friends know that I was, as planned, coming to America in January for a number of weeks and speaking. They said, wow, this is, and then when they found out that the topic that I've been working on since July was Israel, why does it even matter? They're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you better plan to stay for 3 months because you're going to be inundated with speaking engagements.
Yeah.
The exact opposite has happened.
Yeah.
Um, as the world is being divided, we're really seeing, I mean, I make that silly crack from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Is you is or is you ain't my constituency. But I'd love to tell you my phone's been. Well, I was about to say my phone hasn't been ringing off the hook. For our younger listeners, they're not going to understand
No.
that
No.
the phone used to be on the wall,
Yeah.
and I mean,
And it was on
you
a hook.
hang it up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got the same thing. I'm heading out in December. I have one congregation that has invited me to come speak about Israel. Um, let's face it, Hanok. The remnant is we're understanding who the remnant is. Okay, I want to go back to something kind of mentioned there a minute ago, somewhere along the way. I can't remember what you mentioned, but I'm going to tie this in. I've been reading through Jeremiah, and I'm almost to the end of Jeremiah, and I can't. I wish I could tell you that I understood 1% of what is in Jeremiah. Um, I've got a couple of verses, but here's one that I read the other day. And this is Jeremiah 49, verse 10. So I, for my part, have stripped Esau bare. I have exposed his hiding places. He will not be able to hide himself. He is doomed, sons, brothers, and neighbors, so that he is no more. I don't understand a lot of the words of Jeremiah, but I do understand
Not
those.
an easy read. It's not an easy read, Mike.
Yeah. And I pray that we see that in our day, that these rats are exposed, the hostages are released. But, Hanok, at the same time, these people, as of today, what has it been, 50 days, something like that?
Yeah, a little less.
What they have seen, they will never recover from. That's been something that's just been weighing on me. As you for much more than I have met the survivors of the Shoah, the Holocaust. Um, they never get. How do you get over that? You don't. And for these children and what they have seen and what has been done to them, um, there's no way for them to go back. Normal will never be a part of their life, ever.
I mean, this is too early to talk about this, but the collective trauma here in Israel
Mm.
of the children of all ages is inescapable. And again, remember, this wasn't an issue if you were left wing or right wing, religious, secular, whether you believed in whatever or didn't believe. I mean, we have Israeli Arabs, Bedouin from the city of Rahat, who were there, who were shot down too. And these are the guys saying, hey, speaking in Arabic, saying, I'm a Muslim. Um, Thai workers,
Yeah.
people from Nepal, the guy from Tanzania who was killed. As I honestly don't know how many of these hostages are still alive
Yeah.
and what shape they are. I mean, I remember when American POWs were released from Vietnam and those stories, and we didn't have social media yet. It's really horrific, but the world does not hold Hamas accountable for this. And that's the most astounding thing.
No.
It's
No.
considered, I mean, the again, I'm trying to hold back details and I'm trying to be careful with the words, but in Canada, the rape crisis centers, no, it's when women are raped, it's a horrific, serious thing, except if you're Jewish Israeli. It didn't happen. It's unbelievable. People
Yeah.
go out of their way to rip down all these posters. You see it. It's just,
I know.
I don't know. Anyway, but we as a society have gone into this arrangement for a temporary ceasefire, and we know that they're going to be moving, munitions and all kinds
Oh
of
yeah.
things. We know it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, have plans to deal with it, because this is not like all those other brief incursions into Gaza where we kind of, do the hokey pokey, we're in for 2 days, we're out for 2 days. This is real. This is real stuff. And in my mind, I won't be happy until every terrorist is floating in the Mediterranean. I would like it to be where literally there are so many bodies of terrorists floating in the Mediterranean that you could walk along the Gaza shore. You could just step on them and walk.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you.
that's to be continued in a few days.
Yeah.
But today is going to be a very tough day until tomorrow, because always before a ceasefire, everyone wants to fight. They're going to fire off their missiles and do all kinds of things. It's unbelievable.
So as the as America prepares for Thanksgiving, let us. I mentioned this at Life Assembly the other day. We need to remember that the roots that are the United States need to be tied to Israel. Christopher Columbus most likely was Jewish. The Pilgrims most likely were looking for a place of religious freedom to observe the festivals in a way that was biblical. A man named Haim Solomon, who gave to the revolution to George Washington, loaned some what was it, $750,000, I believe it was.
Which at that time was a fortune.
Well, yeah, I mean, today I think I got it in my notes. I'm about to teach on this for a December message. Something like $13 million. I think much more, might be more than that now with inflation. He died penniless, but because of a Jew, the Revolutionary War was won, or we'd all be speaking with a different accent. The attribute, the things that have been given. And then, a crazy little post this morning that I put up and sent back, I was sent a reminder that the word for thanks, yada, and the word for turkey, hadu, has the same root. This little things in life that make you go, So as you're sitting down tomorrow, as people are sitting down tomorrow for their hodu, and I know it's 2 words. I don't know if I got that, but I can't remember the first one. As you're sitting down for your Thanksgiving meal, be thankful for what is happening in Israel, because it's not that you guys are just fighting for you. Your fight is also going to be is affecting what will probably happen here. I don't know what to say about that, really. Just a thought.
Yeah. No, as people have long said, Israel is the canary in the mine shaft. What happens to us first winds up happening to you. I mean, seriously, when Al-Qaeda came to America and they assassinated Rav Kahana in 1990, no one paid attention to it.
No.
Until the first World Trade Center bombing in 93. And one thing, and we appreciate whatever it has been that America has done for us, but I have to tell you, when America had to bomb the hospital in Mosul, Iraq, because there were terrorists in it, no one said anything.
No.
When America had to surround and decimate ISIS, no one said you've got to let them bring in fuel and humanitarian aid. Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, as someone who so much of my life and my psyche is based around getting even, somehow this kind of stuff is going to come back in a bad way against some of the players involved. But
Yeah.
we'll,
Well,
we'll, we'll
with your analogy, all I can say is may the canary thrive.
amen.
All
And
right.
listen, all my friends in America, have a great Thanksgiving. Think of me.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Enjoy it.
Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.